Finding the Voices.
Voices talk show by Monica Iguodam.
I'm a huge fan of Finding the Voice.
You're doing a great job for Manipur.
Manipur bu prithivida masatak pa
good positive voices and make those voices more visible.
Wanted our voice to reach in all the corners of the world.
Interesting people.
Been finding
voices on
People from our own place.
Share positive stories and inspiring stories and bring out the good stories of Manipur.
Finding the Voices.
Because you have been interviewing the insurgents and also you are covering the social aspect overground, and you hear both the stories.
Yeah.
How do you balance out and how does that affect you personally? Because for me, when I interview people, I carry their story with me in my heart, and it stays in my mind, and it does affect me, in many aspects. So for you, I guess it's very deep, and you have seen the worst kind in terms of human violation, and then you have seen the other stories of the insurgents. So just wondering if you can share your effect personally from those stories.
Effect personally was like, you are operating in a militant hit society where some of my colleagues have got on the wrong side of the militants and they've been targeted or they've been asked to cease publications.
Okay.
Also the pressure is there on them. But to me, no, it hasn't affected them.
Okay.
Nothing. I've moved in high circles. I've dined with governors. Governors have come to visit me in my house. But it hasn't affected me personally. This detachment which I'm able to do is something which I cannot fully comprehend. For instance, I remember in 1994, Manipur was under president's rule, which means central federal rule, okay? And the governor of Manipur was a former Indian Army general called General V.K. Nair. We became very close. I kind of became his shadow cabinet. He has officially 2 advisors and his whole bureaucracy. But every evening we used to sit over drinks and he used to ask me for a review of the day's proceedings in the state. He trusted on me more than he trusted his local intelligence network. Okay? And when he went to Ukhrul, which was, no governor had gone to Ukhrul by road. He said, let's go to Ukhrul, come. So we went. Then after the meeting was over, we came back. Like in army style, he has a debriefing session. So what's happened, how did you do? So he asked me, so Lava, how many NACN men did you see today? NACN is the Naga insurgent groups then operating in Manipur, targeting politicians and government officials. And here was a top government official of India in the state of Manipur, traveling on a vehicle on the road. They could have ambushed him if they wanted. Sir, I thought I saw 4. So how did you know? I said, amongst the 1,000 odd people that had gathered in the hall, there were 4 persons who could not look directly into your eyes. They were looking down.
Okay.
Then I asked him, sir, how many did you see? He said, I thought I saw 2.
Okay.
Okay. And then what happened was the political game came in. The center wanted the Congress government to come into power in the state, and so they asked him to usher in a new Congress government. Okay. Now the Congress government was given 10 days time to prove its majority on the floor, but the Speaker of the State Assembly belonged to a different political party, and he was trying to play a ball game. So the Congress party went to the center and asked the governor to postpone the trial of strength on the floor of the assembly by another 10 days, extended by another 10 days. This guy just put his foot down. I said, no, I am not going to change my stand. And then the news came that he was going to resign. Then I got a call from the speaker and a former chief minister. So I went there. I said, what's the problem? It was around 8 o'clock at night. And then they told me very straight. I said, listen, there is nobody in the state of Manipur that can go and meet the governor at this hour now, at 8 o'clock in the evening. Nobody can walk into his house and meet him. Can you please go and tell him not to resign? I, as a speaker, will postpone the trial of strength. I have done it before. I can do it, still do it now. So at 8:30 I landed up in the Raj Bhavan in the governor's palace. I went through this kitchen. Then he looked up at me and says, what do you want? I said, sir, I just come with a message that I know it is against your principle not to agree to the center's request to you or command to you or directive to you to extend the trial of strength by another 10 days because you have already given 10 days to them. But all that is, you don't have to resign over that, I said. Please go and inaugurate the assembly session tomorrow. The speaker himself will postpone the trial of strength by another 10 days. The center will get what they want. And you will not have compromise on your stand.
On his belief and
Yeah,
stand.
okay. Because you have, it is not you who is going to postpone the trial of strength. Okay. Then he looked upon me like that and he says, Lava, I don't do like that. Then around 9 o'clock I said, sir, can I take leave of you now? Then he says, no, I don't allow my friends to leave after one drink. So I had 3 more pegs of whiskey. So I had 4 pegs of whiskey. I still remember I had that evening. And then I came straight out at 10:30. I opened the ADC's room, picked up the phone, called up Calcutta, and I just kind of literally told him, stop press. Stop press is a terminology which you use in journalism where you stop printing.
Okay.
Because a very big news has come in.
Oh.
For instance, you
fill in that news.
have to
coming
fill in that news. For instance, the president has just been killed
Okay.
in a bomb blast. Then all other news becomes secondary. So you say stop press. I almost said stop press. I said stop press. I said, why? What happened? So the governor of Manipur has resigned. Okay, can you give us a story? I said, you have to take it down on pen. I'm going to give it through phone now.
Okay. Because there was no time to write up.
There's
and
no time to
everything.
write up. 10:30 in the evening. So I told the governor of Manipur, General Nair, has tendered his resignation today, submitted his resignation to the President of India, blah, 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 and gave the whole background story. Put up phone number, 11 o'clock I came out. And then apparently this I got to hear later on was the Chief Minister was called up by the Union Home Minister, chap called Rajesh Pilot. And he says, do you know that your governor has resigned? So the Chief Minister said, no sir, I don't know. So then he said, sir, how do you know? Oh, it is out in the Statesman.
Okay.
So that was breaking local news at the national level. Okay.
Yeah.
So I used to report like that. And then he left the state and I accompanied him to the airport. After his aircraft took off, I immediately resumed my role as a reporter. Okay. I immediately resumed my role as a reporter. And
So you had that segregation very clear.
yeah, that segregation is very clear.
I see. So I have been following some of the news you have been writing, and you do write about anti-corruption and you know, writing specifically on people, and then you have the counter effect of being threatened and things like that. So How do you handle
You see,
such?
there is a local English newspaper called the Imphal Free Press. Alongside Statesman, I ran a weekly column for them.
Okay.
It was called Acute Angle.
Acute
Angle.
angle.
Okay. And every week, I would expose one minister or one bureaucrat or one somebody or something who is doing nefarious activities or give a very stringent, sometimes almost pungent view of things happening in the state. Okay? I remember I opened up my account on the column with the article entitled Portrait of a Minister as a Con Man. Okay. I knew the minister very well. And I told him, don't answer this, don't give a reply to this. Because if you give a reply, it will be more devastating. Okay?
More
If you-
things will come out.
More things will come out. You don't understand that I don't fire all my shots at one go. Then this minister's business partner, who was a government employee, was stupid enough to give a reply.
Okay.
Then I came up with an even more stringent reply.
More.
Say, well, the
information.
minister himself is what we in India call Benami or the proxy owner. Alongside his other proxy owner, the government official. The managing director of this firm was a 11-year-old boy. Okay, that I brought out also.
So yeah, so when you write, like, you know, you're writing about these powerful people who
Yeah.
can do many things, and I know that a lot of people in Manipur are silenced, right, because of the fear of being attacked or whatever the consequences of speaking out their mind. And I do admire the courage which I see in your writing in bringing out the things without fear. And then I also see the threads, or at least, you know, some of the writings about you being threatened on some of the reports.
You know, the threats were there. There was a man who.
But where do you get the strength and
The strength is just my
and the
conviction.
courage?
No, I got this threat from this former deputy chief minister. And
So you're not afraid?
so he kind of called up my wife, and my wife picked up the phone. And, you know, the message was sent to my wife through different courier or different channel. Then I sent a word back. I said, listen, boss, Manipur is a big place. You name the place and the time. You get as many people as you want, with as many guns and ammunition or bombs as you want, and I'll come and meet you there. This was the exact message I sent back then. I'll come and meet you there. But you name the place and time. Then it kept shut. There are so many mature politicians also. For instance, this former chief minister and former member, Rajya Sabha member Rishank Singh was a very mature politician. I remember writing against him once. You know.
Okay.
I call him Rishank Singh, Deputy Chief Minister of Manipur, author of South Nagaland Theory of Bifurcation of Manipur, and father of Shimre Kaishing. Shimre Kaishing was his notorious son who was involved in the rape and murder of a college girl in Manipur. Okay. He was under CBI scanner.
Okay.
Now I was calling him in public rapist father, you see. Okay. Then next day some journalist from Delhi came and said, let's go and meet Rishank. I said, listen boss, I have done something very nasty against him yesterday. I don't think he'll be very happy to see me here. I said, doesn't matter, let's go along. So I went. Then after the interview was over, this man turned to me and said, you should just write like that. All that he said was,
Monica, finding the voices.
Finding the voices.
Finding the voice.
I could see my father. Who came to meet my headmaster. Because because he wasn't able to pay the fee. I'm sorry.
Năm nay các lũ anh bột pipi đây. Anh thua được không? Because we need such story for people to have faith in the government, in the system, that yes, it's working.
Let's bring peace in our home state, Manipur.
Who have got the job without bribery. They'll do justice to their job and they will help raise the standard of Manipur.
Me machine kre hai do ai adu paraga ingaugi
Hai đi. Hai đi đi, bà con.
And I think at some more point of time he was pondering over arresting me for my writings. But then the Advocate General then advised him, sir, don't. You will make him a bigger hero out of that, and his popularity will soar more than what he is popular now. Maybe then afterwards he'll may come out and stand for elections and win. Okay. So I was never formally arrested by the state government for any of my writings. But many of my writings could have been termed seditious. I mean, to put a very simple term, sedition is a very nice way of putting brakes on.
Yes.
If it was that kind of writing I had done in Kashmir, I would have been behind bars for many years now. Because when I wrote for the Statesman, these guys called me up and said, boss, do you think we'll frame a charge? I said, you have enough lawyers in your kitty, but consult them. He said, okay, go ahead, we'll print it.
No, but we are very thankful for your guts and bringing out what people cannot speak about and letting it known, and it's out in the public. And we look forward for more stories.
Yeah, okay. Then 1988, we had a very maverick chief minister called Nipa Macha. The only term I can use for him is maverick. Okay. He was having talks with the United Naga Council. Then, you know what he told him? You know, Thibomai is Kohima. King Gambhir Singh had conquered Kohima in 1817 or something like that. But we are not claiming Kohima today to be part of Manipur. Why are you claiming parts of Manipur to be part of Nagal? I don't agree with you. And from his own office chamber, he walked out from the meeting.
Okay.
Instead of these Naga guys who had come to call on him, walking out, he himself walked off. He said, you go ahead, you guys sit down, I am going out. I don't want to talk any further. Okay. Now, the proposal for the formation of Human Rights Commission in Manipur was there earlier with the government. But no government had enough guts to kind of form it. Because if you form a Human Rights Commission, it's like waking up a sleeping tiger. Okay? And I was then nominated by the law minister. He asked me for my biodata or curriculum vitae, and I gave him a one-page write-up.
Okay.
That's about all, one-page write-up. And I was inducted. Issued with a warrant of appointment by the governor of Manipur.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot something about it. I was arrested by the Burmese army
Yeah,
earlier.
that's what I was going to ask. I had it in my notes that you were arrested by the Burmese army.
In
Indian army.
88, I was arrested by the Burmese army because, see, actually what happened was the Burmese uprising, the pro-democratic democracy uprising had started in Burma at that time. And I read in the newspaper how two Japanese journalists were caught while trying to cross in from the Thai side of the Burmese border. Then I said, look, these people they're coming from Japan to Thailand to come to Burma. Here I am sitting 100 kilometers away. Why don't I go and try myself, my luck? And actually I was broke, so I thought if I able to sell a couple of pictures to international magazines like Time or Reuters or something like that, maybe I'll get some money and have a room extended to my house.
Okay.
Frankly speaking, that's what was at the back of my mind. Okay.
Okay.
So I went all around and came out. Then because I am mountaineer by trade also,
Right.
you have to have a proof photograph. You know.
Yeah.
You cannot say I went and climbed this peak without having a photograph to show that you have actually climbed.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was standing in front of this government-looking building with his signboards and starting to have myself being photographed. You see,
Okay.
that's when we were caught.
Oh, when you were being photographed.
Yeah, when I was being photographed.
Yeah.
Because that was a proof picture that
Yeah.
required to be sent along with my picture saying that I was there. No?
Yeah. For your for the cover you're doing.
Yeah. Then we were herded into the Tamu police station, and I still remember the Burmese also, because they were part of the British system, they have SPs and DSP. I still remember the name of the DSP was called Tinso. First question he asked me was, "You Naga?" Now when he said Naga, he means the Naga militants.
I see.
Okay. And they are not questioned or not jailed, they are just shot.
Oh.
Because prior to that, I got to interview some Naga insurgents who had surrendered to the Indian Army. They come from Burma, cross into India to surrender to the Indian Army. So I asked them, why don't you surrender to the Burmese Army? They said, look, there is no surrender with the Burmese Army.
They'll just shoot you.
They just shoot you.
I see. Okay.
Then the only two Burmese words I knew was Kate is the Manipuri term for Manipuris, Burmese term for Manipuris or Meiteis.
Oh.
And Chuno is a no. Chuno, I am Meitei.
Okay.
Chuno Kate.
Oh,
That's
so
all.
you knew that word.
That word I knew. Chuno
that
Kate.
saved you.
No, what saved me was actually we had travelled from Imphal to More
Yes.
on a Manipur State Road Transport Corporation bus.
Okay.
And they issued tickets, you see.
Oh,
Manipur
so
State Road Transport Corporation Imphal.
Oh.
So I gave that. Then what happened was one of these local activists got to know of our arrest, and he came and told the DSP, listen, you are having trouble with your own countrymen now. By arresting these Indians, you will have more trouble with Indians tomorrow. Why be so stupid? So we were let go, and I thought I wasn't being let go. I thought I was being taken to insane jail, and I had already calculated that the minimum year I would be spending in a Burmese jail would be 5 years. And that was when I realized, oh my God, my daughter is still so small. My daughter was hardly a year old then.
Oh, so very young.
So very young. And then they kept the camera back. My camera was retained by them. Luckily, I had taken on transparencies.
Oh, so you had that copy.
I didn't have the copy. I had the film was transparency films.
Okay.
Slide films, as you call it. Not the normal print films.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why they couldn't, when they tried developing it, they couldn't get any picture.
Okay.
It just drew blank.
Okay.
And then after some walking, this guy said, okay, sir, now you can go back. So it was past midnight when we crossed into India, and the border security forces were busy counting the headloads of goods being smuggled into India and goods being smuggled to Burma. The BSF sentry would say, "Kiska maal hai? Ye to phalana ka maal hai, isko ram ka maal hai, tom ka maal hai," and tomorrow he'll go and collect 10 rupees per headload from the man who is the proprietor of the goods being smuggled in. Okay, that's how it. Yeah, I'll tell you another story how I got my camera back. I told the customs people,
Okay.
listen, get my camera back. He's lying with the police station.
Okay.
So when one fine morning they caught 2-3 Burmese people, kept them in the customs confinement and said, what's with Burmese authority? You want this people back? He sent the camera back.
Oh, okay. So it was like an exchange.
So it's like exchange. My camera was exchanged for 2 or 3 Burmese people.
Okay.
But that's how the level I could actually work.
Means you had to do what you had to do.
Yeah. Then I told this guy to come out and take shelter, because then the refugees started coming out, Burmese refugees. He said no. Then later on I got to know that he was arrested. Then I wrote my story. And this story, when the print went all the way up to Rangoon, and students escaping the military crackdown in Rangoon, escaping into India, landed up in my house.
Oh,
Yeah.
because they came to know your name.
They
and
came to know me. I am quite well known there.
in the-
At least amongst those guys who I interacted with. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a kind of a thing which I did. Then I became a member of the State Human Rights Commission. Okay. Now, although we are given very fancy titles and ranks and status, we just had one car.
Okay.
And this car would go around, pick up all the 4 members, like school children being picked up by a school van.
Okay.
I said no. I said, listen, I've been driving a vehicle before I became this member of this commission. Now that I've become a member of this commission, I cannot drive myself anymore. But it is only my presence which is required at a commission, isn't it? The mode of the transport from my home to this commission is not required. I might come by a chopper, might come by a chauffeur-driven car, might walk. So leave that to me. So I had my old cycle, which my father brought from Bangalore in 1946. Okay,
Okay.
it's an old English rally.
Okay.
So I started paddling to the commission on the cycle.
Okay.
Then one day, one journalist friend of mine saw me, and he took a picture and printed
Oh.
a story in the paper,
Okay.
saying, "यहाँ पे हम लावा member of the Human Rights Commission cycling to his office in protest against non-issuing of government vehicle." You know.
Okay.
Immediately that same evening, the law secretary issues an order saying, giving the directive to the law department to hire a vehicle for me.
Okay.
I never asked for a vehicle to be issued to me. All that I did was my simple way of protesting. Listen, it is my presence which is required, and I don't want to be treated like a school kid anymore. And
Means from your story, what I'm getting is, if you want to get something, there could be different ways to achieve that.
yes, many different
And you
ways.
did achieve that.
I really achieved it.
Please tune in at Finding the Voices.